Before the flood. Civilizations wiped out by water. In the depths of our shared myths, where nostalgia and fascination intersect, there is a question that challenges traditional history. Was there an era, lost in cataclysm and oblivion, in which great continents and civilizations flourished and disappeared beneath the waves? Atlantis, Lemuria, Mu, names that resonate, echoes of a humanity perhaps older and wiser than we dare imagine. Today, immerse yourself in the journey to those submerged worlds, trying to distinguish the reflection of memory among the waves of myth and the currents of evidence. The journey begins with the most famous of all lost continents, Atlantis. Atlantis has its origin, or at least its first known mention, in the words of Plato, written almost 2,400 years ago. In his dialogues Timaeus and Critias, Plato describes an island beyond the Pillars of Hercules, what we now call the Strait of Gibraltar, an advanced, wealthy and powerful civilization that was swallowed up by the sea in a single day and night of misfortune. The details Plato offers are striking. Atlantis was larger than Libya and Asia combined and was the cradle of a sophisticated society. They possessed advanced architectural knowledge, sailed in majestic ships, and boasted monumental temples. Their society, though noble in its origins, eventually became corrupted by ambition and excess. For centuries, many philosophers claimed that Plato was merely relating an allegory, a warning about arrogance and decadence. But others, intrigued by the minuteness of the details, and by the fact that Plato claimed to receive history through Egyptian traditions, have insisted on searching for traces of it in reality. Where was Atlantis? Theories multiply like waves in an ancient storm. For some, it was in the Atlantic itself, perhaps in the now submerged areas of the mid-Atlantic ridge or on vanished banks like the Azores. Others look to the Mediterranean and find candidates in the island of Santorini, devastated by an apocalyptic volcanic eruption, or on the shores of ancient Tartessos in Andalusia. Some, taking speculation even further, place it as far west as the Americas, or as far south as Antarctica, arguing that ancient maps seem to recall land masses where only ice exists today. Atlantis thus becomes a mirror that reflects our own desires and unsolved mysteries. But Atlantis is not alone in the catalogue of vanished continents. Sailing the oceans of the East, we encounter the myths of Lemuria and Mu, territories that would have occupied the Indian and Pacific Oceans, according to stories and traditions collected in the 19th and 20th centuries. The myth of Lemuria arose from a strange scientific coincidence. 19th century scholars, analyzing the fauna, flora, and geology spread across India, Madagascar, and Southeast Asia, believed the existence of a submerged continental mass was necessary to explain impossible similarities. Soon, writers and occultists imbued Lemuria with a civilizational splendor. A primordial humanity had emerged there, possessing secrets that influenced Asia, Oceania, and even South America. Mu, for its part, appeared through the work of a soldier and traveler, James Churchward, who claimed to have deciphered in Mayan and Nakal records the chronicle of an enormous continent spread out in the Pacific, where an ancient civilization, the mother of all cultures, would have flourished before disappearing beneath the waters. It is disturbing that, beyond speculation, there are subtle threads between these myths and some local traditions. In India, elders tell stories of the continent of Kumarikandam, swallowed by the ocean, the mythical origin of their language and knowledge. Polynesian cultures venerate heroes and gods, coming from the vanished lands to the west, places now submerged beyond the horizon. On the shores of South America, the descendants of the Incas still remember Viracocha, the son of the sun, who came from the sea after the Great Flood, bringing with him agriculture and civilization. Are these mere coincidences, or scattered fragments of a deeper collective memory? Let us now look for a moment at the myths of the Great Flood. The story of devastating water, of a nearly extinct humanity, and of survivors repopulating the world appears in dozens of cultures. The Sumerians recounted the story of Utnapishtim in the Epic of Gilgamesh. The Egyptians spoke of the primordial floods of Nun. The Mayans told of the collapse of the ancient world under torrents and aquatic monsters. There is a repeating cyclical pattern: destruction followed by rebirth, ancient knowledge safeguarded by survivors, the promise that, after the disaster, civilization is reborn, carrying the fragments of earlier knowledge. And here, between the lines, a fascinating question emerges. Could any of these legends have preserved in encrypted form the memory of a real catastrophe, a cataclysmic event that submerged entire continents, swept away civilizations, and forced survivors to migrate, taking with them stories, techniques, and beliefs? Beyond the myth, there are material remains that invite speculation. Pyramids, temples, and megalithic monuments dot the continents, and many seem to share sophisticated astronomical alignments, from the pyramids of Egypt to the pre-Incan temples of South America, to the Moai of Easter Island or the remains of Yonaguni, submerged near Japan. Troubling questions arise. Why did so many cultures separated by oceans build in such similar ways? How could they achieve this with the means they possessed, according to our orthodox chronology? Some archaeologists argue that it is a matter of cultural convergence, a parallel evolution. Others, however, find in these similarities the echo of a common heritage, remnants of techniques, orientations, and symbolism transmitted by explorers or gods who arrived from the sea. Indeed, many cultures invoke the sudden arrival of civilizing instructors after a catastrophe. Beings who teach agriculture, astronomy, and the art of building in stone. In ancient Egypt, they worshipped Osiris. In Mesoamerica, Quetzalcoatl. In Peru, Viracocha. In the Pacific Islands, Tangaloa. Even languages and genes sometimes seem to laugh at the logic of distance. Some words shared between Polynesian and American cultures, intricate coincidences of genetic patterns between extremely isolated peoples, have offered some scientists arguments to rethink ancient migration and contact movements, although orthodoxy continues to reject the possibility of transoceanic contacts prior to the known era. Today, modern geology has ruled out the possibility that entire continents disappeared in recent historical times, as the myths of Lemuria or Mu suggest. But it is also true that the sea has advanced and retreated, that successive glaciations raised and sank lands that have now vanished. On the ocean floors of the continental shelf, there are traces of ancient coasts, now submerged cities in India and the Mediterranean, vestiges of a previous world whose boundaries we are only just beginning to map. Beyond the physical search, Atlantis has become a symbol. It represents both the memory of a previous cycle and a warning of the dangers of imbalance. Like the tales of destruction and rebirth present in so many mythologies, it challenges every civilization, including our own, to reflect on the dangers of hubris, unbridled technology, and the neglect of natural laws. Perhaps this is the true legacy of the lost continents. Not necessarily the guarantee of a specific civilization beneath the waves, but the persistent echo that we are not the first to reach our peak. Nor, if we don't learn from the past, will we be the last to fall. The mystery endures. In the depths of the Atlantic, the Pacific, or perhaps in the deepest recesses of human collective memory, the enigma of the lost continents whispers to us that official history could be just a recent chapter in a much older book. Ancient legends may not just be bedtime stories. Perhaps, among the rubble of myth and the submerged remains, lies the compass to understand our own place in the unfinished cycle of destruction and rebirth. Because if it is true that Atlantis, Lemuria, and Mu existed and perished, they leave us with a question and a warning. What will our legacy be when the waters once again reclaim what we believe to be eternal? Between myth and science, between nostalgia and search, the legacy of the lost continents invites us to look to the horizon with reverence and perhaps a little humility. If you like this documentary, give us a like and subscribe to rewrite our history.